welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and I have a special video today that I've never done anything like this before. I actually got a request. Well, I should say I have done this before, but not exactly like this. I got a request recently from Custom Dragon Highlander, which is a Discord where they make custom commander cards all the time, and they emailed me and wanted me to take a look at some of the commanders from their Discord on my channel. And I said, sure, I probably will end up doing it exactly like I do with my own patrons' creations on my Discord. And they said, sure, great, do it that way. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I went to their Discord, I grabbed a bunch of random commanders, haven't really looked at them at all, and I will be sort of evaluating them just like I would with any new commander that came out. And I'm going to be harsh, so be prepared. No, I'm not going to be harsh. I'm going to be just like I normally would with any card that comes out by Wizards of the Coast or anyone else, right? So just going to give my opinion, a little bit of an evaluation, and maybe what I would do with it, all right? So let's get into it. Okay, we're starting out with Zargoth, Eternal Headhunter, 1 black, red, and a green zombie knight, 4/3, first strike, and menace. Whenever a creature or planeswalker dealt damage by Zargoth this turn is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a head counter on Zargoth. Okay, so we have a headless horseman sort of scenario here. I guess he's got a head. Anyway, at the beginning of your upkeep, for each head counter on Zargoth, choose 1. Zargoth deals 2 damage to any target. That's pretty good. Target opponent discards a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Zargoth. Okay, so whenever a creature or planeswalker dealt damage by Zargoth this turn is put into a... By the way, okay, so first of all, just, contextual issues here. You just have to put dies on here, right? Dealt damage by Zargoth this turn, dies. Oh, no, it's a planeswalker as well, so I guess you can't really use dies. Yeah, okay. By the way, I've always wanted them to change the wording there. I don't know, because that wording, that is the Sengir vampire wording, where if this creature deals damage to another creature and then it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. That's the Sengir vampire ability, or the vampire ability in general. I mean, what could you say, kills? When this creature kills another creature or kills a planeswalker, I don't know. It's just that's one of those phrases, just like dies or anything else, that it's a mouthful, and it would be nice if we had a keyword for that or something. So dealt damage by Zargoth is very important, of course, because it's not combat damage. It means you can do damage in any way, like putting some effect on here that is going to shoot damage at your opponent's creatures, right? So maybe what you could do, I don't know if there's any of those in Jund colors though. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Does True Strike Trident do that? Or does True Strike Trident only deal damage to a player? So putting head counters on this guy might actually be difficult. When I first read the ability at the beginning of your upkeep, for each head counter on Zargoth, choose 1. That's all great if you have a pile of counters on there. Of course, you can proliferate, which is something I definitely would do here. Just getting the 1 counter and then you can proliferate would be really, really nice. So I definitely would go with proliferate. You're also doing +1/+1 counters, so proliferate for sure is going to be great here. But the scenario where whenever this creature deals lethal damage, let's say, to a creature or planeswalker, you're putting a head counter on it, that actually might be tough, right? Your opponents are very much in control there. The planeswalker part, you're in control because you can just attack a planeswalker, and your creature has menace, so it's hard to block. You can get it off the table pretty easily. You're essentially in control of that situation, but every other situation, not so much, right? Because your opponents can just not block, right? If they don't want you to have a head counter, they just won't block, and you'll never get a head counter. So you might definitely want to have some other scenarios where you can kill your opponent's creatures after they've been dealt damage by Zargoth. Another thing you can do, of course, is he doesn't have to deal the lethal damage. He can just deal damage if they survive, and assuming your Zargoth survive, like say it's an 07 wall, you deal damage to that wall. It's of course going to survive after combat, but then you can, zap it with a lightning bolt or something. Now it has died, and you will get the head counter, right? But lure effects would probably work great, right? Again, though, because it has menace, we're in a little bit of... I talked about this with Oh, Chromium, the original Chromium, how is that? Is Rampage and Flying. Rampage, you want it to be blocked. Flying is an evasion effect. So you have Menace, which is evasion, but you want it to be blocked. So maybe taking Menace off of this is the way to go here, because now then, if I put lure effects on this guy because I want him to be blocked, because I want him to kill creatures, a grappling hook is going to be fantastic here, because now I can choose the creature, or magnetic web again, because now I can choose the creatures that I want to force the block on. They actually can't block if it's just them, because it has menace. Your opponent can just not block with another creature, and then your plan has been foiled. So taking the menace off of this card actually might be a good thing. All right, moving on. Yukio Kano, the Setting Sun 2, red and a white, Human Samurai 3/2, Bushido 1. Wow, we haven't seen Bushido on a card in a long time. They didn't even bring it back with Neon Dynasty. I guess they just thought it was such a lame ability they didn't want to revisit it. Whenever Yukio Kano, the Setting Sun, attacks alone. Okay, so we are doing the Human Samurai attacking alone thing that was done in Neon Dynasty. You may pay red and a white. If you do, search your library for... Oh boy, we're searching, and I already know where we're going with this. Is this a Sunforger ability? If you do, search your library for a red or white instant card with mana value 4 or less. Cast that card without paying its mana cost. Yes, it is. It is Sunforger on a commander. Oh boy. That's powerful. That is powerful. So 3/2, he's not big. Bushido 1 is like, that's okay. That's more of a flavor thing than anything, right? Attacks alone. You may pay. So you have to attack alone. That's not a big deal, right? I don't know. This might be too good. Like Sunforger is an incredibly powerful effect in a... as we all know, it's incredible in a command. I mean, what if you put a Sunforger on this guy? I mean, it gets even better. But anyway, I mean, obviously you would put that in the deck because you're going to have a ton of mana value 4 or less instants in your deck anyway, right? The thing about this is you can attack alone with your Yukio Kano, and obviously it's an attack trigger. So before your opponent can block, say they've got a great blocker, you can go get a Path to Exile and get that card out of the way, right? That's I don't know. It might be too good. This might actually be too good, I think. You're doing it once a turn. Obviously, you can do extra combats here, seize the day and stuff, which you most certainly, I think, would. You are limited, obviously, but I'm just thinking, man, a Sunforger is so good in a commander game. I like Sunforger for... I can go get a Comeuppance or a Settle the Wreckage or something with it, which is really awesome. Obviously, here you can't do that. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be very helpful, but what would be really easy is I attack with my commander alone. I pay the red and a white. I go get a Swords, a Path, a Lightning Helix, just a removal spell, right? Fateful Absence, whatever. There's a million of them, and just start knocking off my opponent's creatures. Is it too good? I'll let the viewers decide. You guys can comment below. All right, moving on. We got Guardian of the Tower, which doesn't really sound like a legendary creature, so, I don't want to criticize the names too much, but Guardian of the Tower just sounds like some guy. So, anyway, 2 and a green, legendary artifact creature construct. So we have an artifact creature. When Guardian of the Tower enters the battlefield, search your library for a land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Okay, that's pretty good, actually. It's a land card. It's not a... Okay, so... Already, that's really good. I haven't looked at the second ability yet. 3 mana, 3/2. If you just think about this, I have a creature. It's a 3 mana 3/2, and when it ETBs, I can go get any land out of my library and put it in my hand. That's a phenomenal creature that people are going to be playing like crazy. So just in the 99, this card is going to get used a ton. I would put this in my Name as One deck, because now I can go get Cabal Coffers with it, right? Or Urborg, or Command Beacon, or any of the really important lands I have in that deck. It is. Sylvan Scrying costs 2. Go get any land out of your deck, but this is on a body. It's a 3/2 creature, and as I say all the time, anything stapled on a creature is always going to be better. Now, it is an artifact creature, which means it's more susceptible to removal, but who cares? Because I guess it's your commander, so you would care a little bit. But just 2 and a green creature, 3/2 creature, that when it ETBs, you go get any land out of your library and put it into your hand, is a card that's going to go in the 99 of a ton of decks. So we might already be too far here with this. Let's look at the second ability. Whenever you cast a spell, if mana from an Urza's Mine, oh wow, Urza's Power Plant, Urza's Tower was spent to cast it, copy it. Oh boy. This guy's too good, man. He has to cost more than 3. First of all, he's green, which, like, maybe you're trying to nerf this guy a little by making him mono green and by making him an artifact creature. I mean, the artifact creature, I guess, is flavorful a little bit. Mono green is very weird. I guess it's not weird because you're getting a land. Okay, so maybe it's not weird. I would almost make him 2-color, maybe blue-green. Maybe then that's even making him even better, but I'm just thinking flavor-wise, because green is just not an artifact color at all. Whenever you cast a spell, if mana from an Urza's Mine, Urza's Power Plant, Urza's Tower was spent to cast. So you want, this is a Tron deck, which is funny. I guess the Tron decks in Modern were like mono green, so maybe that's why you made it green. Also, searching for land is obviously a green thing. So, you know, this is too good. Like I said, just that first ability alone makes this a pretty good commander. The second ability, right, I don't even need to assemble Tron here, right? Whenever you cast a spell, if mana from an Urza's Mine, I don't need to assemble Tron. All I need is an Urza's Mine. As soon as I put an Urza's Mine into play, copy any spell I cast that uses that Urza's Mine. That's amazing. So now I can cast a Soul Ring with my Urza's Mine, and I get 2 Soul Rings, right? Yeah. Because when you copy a permanent spell, this is just whenever you cast a spell. So if I cast a Soul Ring, I get 2 Soul Rings. And your commander is only 3 mana. I can very easily turn 2 in a green deck, Guardian of Tower, go get an Urza's Mine, and now everything I cast with my Urza's Mine is copied. Right? I cast a Cultivate, and I go get 4 lands. Way too good. This guy's too good. He's got to cost like 5 or maybe more. Yeah, way too good. Or whenever you cast a artifact spell, if mana or something like you have to nerf this guy quite a bit, I think. All right, moving on. Queneth, Temporal Extortionist. Human Wizard 2/2, suspend 4. Oh, that's funny. So suspend 4 is 2 hybrid Izzet mana. So of course that means you spend the 2 hybrid mana and you put the card from your hand into exile. Suspend does not work from the command zone. I don't know if the person making this card knew that or not. The only actual commander is Ith High Arcanist, who has the suspend ability. Can't use it from the command zone, so it's essentially useless. But maybe there's a reason for it. Let's find out. Okay, so pay 2 Izzet hybrid mana. Exile Queneth Temporal Extortionist from the command zone with 4 time counters on it. Okay, so you're giving it an ability that lets it have suspend. Okay, so you are aware of that. That's good. Yeah, you've created your own ability that allows it to be suspended from the command zone. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if Queneth is suspended, remove it. Remove a time counter from it. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell. Okay, so you're going to get them into play a lot faster. Already lots of effects out there that do stuff like that. Tap, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Man, again with the copying, that is a really powerful ability, guys. I know Wizard of the Coast has been doing it kind of a lot lately. Copying stuff is really powerful. Okay, tap, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Then exile Queneth with X time counters on it, where X is the mana value of a spell copied this way. Okay, that definitely makes it fair. Then exile Queneth with X time counters on it. Okay, as we all know, a suspend card, when it is finished with the time counters, you cast it and it gains haste. That's a very important part of the suspend ability, is it gains haste as soon as it comes into place, so you can use it right away. So this guy, if he doesn't have suspend, he's not going to get the haste. So you have to give him the suspend so that he gains haste, so that you can use that ability right away. Totally fair, I think, because every time you use that ability, I mean, what you can do, cast an instant or sorcery like a draw spell or something, tap him to copy it, right? And before the ability resolves, you can untap him, copy it again. So you can have a bunch of untappers in this deck. That's pretty good, but nevertheless, you're building around your commander, which is what you're supposed to do. So I can untap him in response to my own ability, copy the spell a bunch of times, and of course, he's only going to get exiled just the once, right? You can't exile him more than that. So once he's exiled, the further you know, exile effects won't actually do anything. Pretty good. I like it. I like how you have that suspend from the command zone. All right, we got a couple more here. Like I said, I just grabbed some random ones. Also, I apologize for whoever made these. I mean, you guys know who you are. I think the names are on the bottom, maybe. Yeah, I didn't do that. Sorry. So yeah, shout out to whoever made these cards. You guys know who you are. I'm mostly making this video, by the way, as a, for all those who don't know about Custom Elder Dragon Highlander, I'm giving a shout out to their Discord here. I also love doing stuff like this. I love evaluating new commanders. And also I'm doing it for them so that on their Discord, they can have a discussion, I assume, about this video. I also assume that all the people on their Discord, will be watching this video. So it's sort of a win-win for everybody, right? All right, Quotus Det Tyrant, white, blue, black. Legendary creature, Zombie Noble. 1/4, has Ward 2. I always like to see those ward and hexproof type of abilities on commander, so they're not so easy to kill. Whenever an opponent pays for a spell or ability you control, that player loses 2 life. Oh boy. Whenever an opponent pays for a spell or ability you control, that player loses 2 life? How are they going to do that? There must be something else here, because whenever an opponent pays for a spell or ability you control... Oh, wait. Okay, I can think of a couple. All right. The wheels are starting to turn here. Aether Storm, is that one? Where you have all of these... I'm loving this commander already. There's all these abilities out there that... it's like some horrible effect. I think Aether Storm is maybe you can't cast creature spells, but you pay 4 life and anyone can destroy it. There's lots of effects like that where it's a horrible, awful effect, but anyone can pay life to destroy it. Volros Dungeon is another one. Volros Dungeon is a card that you can put your opponent's cards on top of their library, pay 5 life. I think anyone can destroy it by paying 5 life. So whenever an opponent pays for a spell or ability you control, so that would be an ability that you control, because you control that card, that player loses 2 life. So you're not stopping them from doing it. They just have to pay an extra 2 life. I don't know if you're going to build your deck around it. It's interesting, though. Those kind of effects are interesting. Also, though, what's another one? I just thought of another one. Excavation. What does excavation do? Excavation is one where you are... what are you doing? You're sacrificing lands, or you're discarding lands or something. I'll throw the card up there. That might be a good one. That would work in this deck because your opponents have to pay an extra 2 life every time they use it. All right, moving on. Whenever an opponent decides not to pay for a spell or an ability you control, you gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent decides not to pay for a spell or ability, that's not going to work, guy. No, that's not going to work. So again, I'm going to throw Volros Dungeon out there. How's that going to work, right? I have a Volros Dungeon in play. My opponent is deciding not to pay for that spell or ability, so you gain 2 life. This is a triggered ability, and the triggered ability is depending on your opponent deciding to do stuff, right? Like if your opponent decides to go to the bathroom, right? Or if they decide, that wording doesn't work. Sorry. Because if the Volros, how often is it going to trigger? If I have a Volros Dungeon in play, that is an ability that my opponent can use and decide not to. They don't want to pay the 5 life. So this is just going to this is going to break the game, right? Because it's going to continuously trigger because my opponent is at every point during the game. It would be like a state-based effect or something, right? At every point during the game that my opponent is not paying life to destroy it, that you are gaining 2 life. So this just becomes an infinite loop, I think. Like the wording there just doesn't work. The wording, I know you probably have something in mind. Maybe this last ability. I'm probably throwing a wrench into your plans here with cards like Volros Dungeon and Aether Storm, because maybe you don't know those cards exist. So what happens if I have a Volros Dungeon in play? Right? That's what you have to take into consideration with this card, because at every point during the game, you are going to decide not to pay the 5 life and destroy it, which means this is going to infinitely trigger gaining me an infinite amount of life, right? So anyway, moving on to the last ability. Whenever a creature you control dies, its controller may pay 1. its controller may pay 1. If they do, you and that player both draw a card. Okay, so obviously you're playing into that last ability, but again, you probably didn't think about those other cards that I brought up, right? So it's a good thing I did. You're gonna have to rethink this, right? Because of cards like Valrus Dungeon and Aether Storm and all of those cards that allow anyone to activate the ability, right? Because that is an ability that an opponent can pay for a spell. This isn't pay life either. I was assuming it was pay life. Whenever you said whenever an opponent pays for a spell or an ability you control, I assumed it was paying life. It's not. It's just paying any amount of mana, right? And there's lots of abilities out there that you can control it, and any player may pay, a mana or life or whatever for it. And you need to take that stuff into consideration with this card, because it especially doesn't work with that middle ability. All right, moving on. Okay, Jezebel Sharp-Eyed Stalker? Sharp-Eyed Stalker. I think you just want Sharp-Eyed Stalker there, right? Sharp-Eyed Stalker? Sharp-Eyed Stalker, I don't think is the correct phrasing you're looking for. Anyway, 3 black, green, and a blue. I was going to say it better be a Naga, because obviously that picture is a Naga. So Naga Assassin. Do people say Naga, by the way? Because everyone gives me a hard time for saying Saga, Naga. Do people say Naga? Because everyone apparently says Saga. So if you say Saga, do you say Naga? Because that sounds pretty silly. Just saying. Anyway, 5/4 Death Touch Reach. Great combination of abilities there. So now I have a commander that just sits on the battlefield and nobody wants to attack me because I can block anything and it's got Death Touch, right? 6 mana is a lot. So this has got to be doing a lot. Keen Senses. Have I seen Keen Senses on a card before? That looks familiar. I think I might have seen that before. Anyway, pay 3 life. So, okay, first things first, we have an issue here. This creature can target creatures with hexproof and... Okay, so this is an activated ability, and you do not have a colon in here. And if you check out my... what is it? My original Magic Rules video, you have to have a colon. Even if you have that little, italics ability there, you still have to have a colon with this. So pay 3 life, colon. It has to be. You can't have a period. That doesn't work, because paying the life is the part of the activation cost, and you always have to have the activation cost, colon, and then whatever the ability is, right? There has to be a colon separating the activation cost. Again, because a card like Mangara of Karandor, the activation cost is only tapping it. Exiling your Mangara is part of the resolution, which means you don't actually have to exile them. You can get around that, right? Gotta have a colon there. That's an absolute must. This creature can target creatures with hexproof and shroud as though they didn't have those abilities. Activate only as a sorcery. Do they say this creature? Like, you should probably use the card's actual name rather than this creature. I don't know. Like, this creature, the wording, it should just say Jezebel can target creatures with hexproof and shroud as though they didn't have those abilities. And it also should say until end of turn, right? Until end of turn. I'm pretty sure this creature can target creature. Is this a permanent ability? Is this like riding the Delu horse? Because if it's not, you got to say until end of turn, right? This creature can target creatures with hexproof and shroud. Does this just pay 3 life and you just turn that ability on permanently? Otherwise, we got to have until end of turn in there, right? Okay, tap, destroy target tapped creature. It can't be regenerated. Okay, that's a good ability. Whenever a creature an opponent controls, it's a Royal Assassin, so it's not like super ridiculous. By the way, Royal Assassin is so good in a commander game. I can't believe that card's not used more. Whenever a creature, and because all they have to do is attack, right? Again, talk about preventing your opponents from attacking you. As soon as they swing with their creature, you go, I'll destroy that, right? Because now it's tapped, assuming it doesn't have vigilance. Whenever a creature an opponent controls is destroyed this way until your next upkeep, Jezebel Sharp-Eyed Stalker gains protection from that player and permanents they control. Oh boy. Is that too good? I don't know. That's pretty good. So just your commander is going to gain protection from that player and permanents they control. So they can't target you with any spells, obviously. You can also block as freely as you want, but your commander's tapped. Untappers is going to be huge here again. Like what you can do here, you can just have Fate Stitcher, right? So you got a Fate Stitcher out, and you just tap down an opponent's creature. You don't have to wait till it attacks. You tap down an opponent's creature, destroy it, and now you don't have to worry. I mean, you could even do this in response, which is really good, right? So your opponent is about to path your commander. In response, I tap one of their creatures with my Fate Stitcher and then destroy it. And then, of course, my stuff's going to have protection, and their path or their whatever is going to fizzle. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. You got to have another card in play to assist. You have other opponents. Once you get down to one opponent, this gets really good, right? Because now you can just give your commander protection from that player almost constantly. That being said, you are tapping your commander. Untappers are going to be huge here. Again, because your commander is a fantastic blocker because it has Death Doesn't Reach. So my opponent attacks with their team. I destroy one because they're tapped and attacking, and then my commander gets the protection, and now I want to untap it so that I can block with it as well. So, and I'm going to kill another creature. So untappers are huge here. I think it's fair. The only thing, again, you have to have that colon in there with the pay 3 life, and it has to be until end of turn. I think if this is just, I turn it on, and now my commander can target any creature with impunity. Nah, I think that's a bit much. We want until end of turn, right? Okay, moving on. Last one today, and it is Zoe, Matron of Rebirth. 2 black, and a green plant angel. Well, the art is fitting there, certainly, right? It is definitely looks like a plant angel. So it's always funny. And I used to do this. I made custom cards all the time. And a lot of times I would try to find art for a card that I was making. And other times I would just find really interesting art like this and go, what would that be if it was a creature, right? I mean, it would be a plant angel, right? Maybe an elemental angel, but certainly plant angel is fitting. I don't know, like black and green. I mean, if I'm looking at this card right away, I'm thinking it's green and white. Angels are usually white, plant green. But, maybe there's a black aspect to this. I guess we'll find out. So it's 4/4 and flying. Each card in your graveyard is a creature in addition to its other types. Okay, that definitely feels like a black-green ability. Each card in your graveyard is a creature in addition to its other types. Oh, wow. That's really, really good. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player returns a permanent card from their graveyard to their hand. Create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's an 0/2 green plant creature. Wow, that's an interesting ability. Each card in your graveyard is a creature in addition to its other types. That might be too good. Living Death. I'll just throw out the Living Death situation, right? Living Death is going to return, or any mass graveyard recursion scenario, right? I can just fill my graveyard with lands, artifacts, everything. Living Death, I get it all back. I don't just get the creatures now because all of my cards in my graveyard are creatures in addition to the other types. Also, instants and sorceries, what's going to happen there? I'm not sure. I think the ruling on instants and sorceries is if they're put onto the battlefield, they instantly just go back to the graveyard as a state-based effect. You're really getting into some tricky rule situations with each card in your graveyard as a creature. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player returns a permanent card from their graveyard to their hand. That player, create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's... Okay, so I really would I like that ability. That ability is very interesting, very political. Your opponent gets to choose a creature, a permanent card. Oh, it's a permanent. It's not a creature. From their graveyard to their hand, create a token that's a copy of that card, except that is a very interesting ability that you could definitely build around. I would get rid of that first one. Each card in your graveyard is a creature in addition to its other types. It's way too powerful because, again, any mass graveyard recursion just brings everything back. Your lands, your artifacts. And also you get into some very tricky rules situations, I believe, as well. I would scrub that. It's interesting. I'm sure there's a lot of neat things you could do there, but I would scrub it. The last ability, I actually really like that. That's very interesting. It's political. It's, your opponent has to put some thought into what they want back because maybe they want something really good, but then you get a token copy of it, except it's an 0/2. But if it's like a Razaketh, you don't care if it's an 0/2, really, right? That last ability, very, very interesting. And I think it suits the black-green. It suits the plant angel. Really nice. I like it a lot. All right, guys, that's it. That's all. Evaluating some custom commanders from Custom Dragon Highlander. I think it is just a Discord. I will, of course, put the link for the Discord in the description below for anyone who wants to check it out themselves. And I hope all the people whose cards I was evaluating here were also watching this video. Thanks for the shout out, guys. It was actually really fun evaluating these cards. That is it for today, though, and thanks for tuning in.